It's a wonderful Tuesday evening, and this is George Teague here with you now on this next edition of Teague's Take. Thank you guys for being loyal fans and coming out and listen. If you are new to the show and you're checking us out, we appreciate that too. We hope that you stay with us for a long time, by subscribing and liking our YouTube channel or any other podcast channels that you might be listening to us on. Tonight we got to talk some college football, not necessarily about Alabama, but about this recruiting landscape. Over some weeks now, you've been hearing me and JT talk about different things with transferring, what that looks like, what the recruiting war looks like, and I think you guys know how I feel now because I'm coming around on what this transfer portal looks like, but I don't know yet. So we're actually going to have some help getting through this a little bit tonight because I was able to convince. I'm going to call him a friend because we've known each other for a while. Who's going to join on the show? But so I want to start with this first. I want to open this up in this kind of way. And so I'm stealing this from someone. I wish I could have taken it myself, but apparently it was out there. And then someone just said it to me today about the way Alabama recruits. Someone said Alabama doesn't recruit. They select. Oh, man, that hit me so good. They select, meaning, they're not always dropping all these things out there. They just try to find the best because they can, and then they select who they want because most of the times they get the people that that they want to have, So that's not necessarily true for everybody because a lot of people got to beg to try to get them to come to their school. So we're going to bring this group in, and we're going to talk about this stuff. So let's go ahead and bring in our co-host, James Teague, the analytical one. And on the phone, you won't see him. We do have a very special guest with us. His name is Patrick Conn. Patrick Conn has been involved in the recruiting world for many, many, many years. When I first met him, he was covering the recruiting world for the Texas Longhorns. And then he moved over to the Oklahoma Sooners to cover them. And recently, I don't think it's been that long, Patrick, would you tell me? But he just joined with the LSU Tigers. So that's kind of cool for us. Yeah. So, Patrick, do we have you here, man? Can you hear us?
Oh, is that a no?
Did we lose him already? Mr. Patrick. Oh, well, maybe we did lose him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I'll text him and see if I can get him back. But it's going to be really interesting because the stuff he was just talking about, first of all, he has some pretty funny stories about who he was following around. JT, you can email him too.
Okay.
Just in case his phone is, if he was on his cell phone, it might be
No,
dead.
he was on his computer.
Oh, oops. Yeah, we're sorry about that. I'm looking at my phone for you. Dang it. Okay. You good? There we go. So the main thing that really kind of popped up about this is I sent out some stuff earlier via Twitter and Instagram, I believe, about Alabama taking over the recruiting class. And I don't know how they really rank it when they combine the two, JT, but it was saying Alabama had now moved into the number one spot ahead of Texas A&M because of combining transfers and those that have signed or committed, that kind of thing. So I was really kind of curious, and maybe I don't know. Do they kind of weight? Is it really based upon stars with these transfers when they put them into this? Is it all stars, or what do you think it really is on how they can rank?
What, the transfers?
Yeah.
I'm not sure because it's kind of weird. So like when you look at the transfer portal list, like on 24/7 Sports, um, you will see like these little icons that mean like they've gained a star since they left high school, or they've lost a star since they've left high school, or they stayed the same. Like I don't know. We had somebody on the show probably, I guess, about a year ago that was telling us like what the stars actually mean, and like 5 stars, like they expect you to be all conference or all American or something, and 4-star is significant
Hey,
impact.
I'm gonna interrupt just real fast because Patrick says you got him staged
Oh,
in the back somewhere. So
whoops. Yeah, he I think he left and came back into the stream, and we're going to fix that right now. Patrick, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes. Welcome to the show.
I was going to tell you, I started doing LSU prior to Ed Orgeron calling out the sissy blue shirts.
So you joined that year then? You hadn't been there a long time.
No, I hadn't actually. It was like literally my first month taking over, LSU coverage, and then Ed Orgeron goes out and does the sissy blue shirt, and then, gets her butt kicked in the Rose Bowl. So it was quite an interesting welcoming to, I guess, the Bayou Bengals at that point.
How do you write after that? Do you have to cover games, or is it really just on players? And
I mean, yeah, we cover it all. Game recaps. We do predictions, players to watch. I mean, it's no different than pretty much anybody else. Any other team that you may cover, whether it was Dallas Cowboys, Texas Longhorns, Oklahoma. It's the same.
so you don't have to be a homer when something like that happens. You can say, "What the hell were you doing? Why did you talk about them baby blue shirts?" And
I think that's kind of I think that's a benefit almost, being able to talk about what I think rather than coming from a point of view of a fan of a team. The one thing I struggled with most with like the Cowboys. I grew up a Cowboys fan. I spent so many years watching them, and then I start writing about them, and it's almost to the point where, can you be objective? Like, can you take your fan glasses off and look at it for what it is, and not just be, rah rah, go Cowboys? You got to be able to do that, and I think going to the college level, I've been able to do that because I'm not a fan of these teams that I write for. Now, will I bring the same passion that you would expect from somebody who is a fan? Absolutely. But I'm also going to tell you when it's bad.
Okay. Well, I think you were missing part of what JT was saying here just a minute ago. We were talking about the rankings.
Because I'm sure you can answer the question better than I can.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out, you guys rank recruiting classes, and then there was a ranking of how teams are doing with transfer only. And now apparently there's a combined kind of ranking system of transfers and the recruiting class. I brought it up because Alabama's supposed to be number one, I guess, for what I read, with the combined thing of transfers and recruiting class. So we're trying to get an explanation of how that actually works.
It's rankings themselves. Recruiting rankings is much like top 25 rankings, much like the college football playoff. It's objective, or it's subjective to whoever is viewing it, because much like, and George, you can agree to this, you can probably attest to this. NFL draft, we can watch the same player and we could have completely different thoughts. The big one that we always hear about was Taco Charlton versus TJ Watt, right, during the Cowboys draft, and people get upset about it, and I get it. Some people looked at him and said, I am too, but what the point is, we could look at, like, some people go, oh, well, Taco, he can be, he can be what we want him to. In the fan base the whole time, we're like, why didn't we get TJ Watt? Oh, he can't put his hand in the dirt. He can't do this. Meanwhile, other people, much like the Steelers, looked at him and said, yes, he can. And that's what they asked him to do. It's subjective to who's viewing it. And that's why you can go to Rivals and look at their board, and they could have a completely different ranking than 24/7, than ESPN recruiting, than On3. That's why I think it's important to look at the consensus and the composites, because it's kind of an average of the four different sites to kind of give you an idea. So really, the rankings are really subjective to who's viewing it. The other part of it, and this is not fact, this is my speculation on it. There are so many high school recruits, much like when college guys are going to the NFL. There's so many guys. It's hard to look at 300 guys and grade them properly. It's hard to look at these thousands of kids that are trying to get it to the college level and grade them properly. I think a lot of these grades are being given based on who's offering
stocks.
them. Who's offering them. If you get a kid and he's getting offers from these small schools, and all of a sudden Alabama comes in and Ohio State comes in and LSU comes in and Texas comes in, your chances are if you were getting low-level, lower-tier schools offering you, they might say, okay, this guy's a 3-star recruit. Now he's getting Alabama and Texas. Okay, maybe he's a high 4-star, maybe he's a low 5, and so it to me, there's no science behind it. It's just you look at a kid and you try to go off of that. I think the rankings are good for a couple of reasons. You can kind of gauge where you're at as far as the team recruiting. The other part is I think they're a great conversation piece. It's great. It's great banter for fans. Alabama and A&M going back and forth, and Georgia's in there, and depending on the year, LSU is up there. I mean, it's bragging rights. You're tossing it back and forth, and now you have to incorporate transfer rankings. You have to incorporate the overall rankings, where I kind of think Alabama. I know we were talking about this before, but that's where Alabama's kind of been viewed as the top team. Why? Because they've got the number 2 recruiting class. If you look at 24/7 composite, you throw in a top 10 transfer class. And honestly, I think the transfer portal itself and how it's kind of evolved, I blame Nick Saban for a lot of it, because he's kind of going in there and going, I just lost Devonta Smith. What am I going to do? I'm going to go to Ohio State and I'm going to grab Jamison Williams, and I'm going to make him my top level receiver. And it was like there was no drop off at all. I mean, you had John Mechie there, who was experienced, but Jamison Williams he took the top off of defenses, and I literally did. And that's why I say I'll blame Nick Saban for a little bit of it, because he's like you said, selecting. He's going, okay, which guy do I want? I want that guy. Henry Tolo, right? He was a top tier. What was he? A 5-star linebacker out of Tennessee. Enters the portal, right to Alabama. And turned out to be a vital part of that defense. And so, yeah, I will blame him a little bit, but, it's changed the way recruiting is, I think, especially with this coaching carousel that just went on. I think the transfer portal was just as important as the high school football recruiting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
so
hold on. I gotta. It's slightly off topic, but we have a viewer question from Craig Young, and he's asking how Brian Kelly is going to fit into the LSU home. What thoughts do you have on that?
I think culture and fit is the most overblown thing in college football. I'll go back to 1999. When Jerry DiNardo was fired from LSU. And they went in and got this coach from Michigan State named Nick Saban. Was anybody crying about culture and fit? The guy from the north, right? He came from Michigan State. Yes, he's from West Virginia, but he came into LSU and he completely turned that football program around. If you remember the late 90s, LSU, they were a bad football team. And so he comes in and he turns everything around. So, to me, I think culture and fit are kind of overblown. There's only one culture in college football that matters, and that's winning football games. The one thing I will say about Brian Kelly is the guy has won everywhere he's gone. Now, has he won the national championship? No. But at Cincinnati, he did such a good job there that he went to Notre Dame. What did he do at Notre Dame? Became the all-time winningest coach in Notre Dame football history. Uh, can't win a national championship there. Is that any fault of his? Some will say yes, but I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that he can't compete with Alabama because Alabama doesn't have the school restrictions, the admission restrictions that Notre Dame has. And that's because Notre Dame they have a high standard and they do well. I mean, I think you win 10, 11, 12 games at Notre Dame. I think that's about as good as you're going to get. Now, do I think eventually they could get over that hump? Potentially. I do think that. But I think Brian Kelly is actually a great fit at LSU. And why is that? Because he can win football games. And now he has a talent-rich base to choose from. State of Louisiana that produces so many talented players. But he's not afraid to go into California. He's not afraid to go into Texas. And he has those national ties already because he had to recruit the entire nation at Notre Dame. The benefit he has now is he doesn't have to jump on a jet every time he wants to go visit a kid. And we were hearing stories about when Harold Perkins, 5-star linebacker, decommits from Texas A&M. He's visiting Florida. He goes in to Baton Rouge to visit with Brian Kelly. He brings his whole family, and they were blown away with how prepared he was. He was to the point where he wasn't even having to ask questions because they were already answering for him because he was that well prepared. So I think, honestly, right now, we won't know how great of a hire it's going to be. It's always early. But I think right now it seems like a good fit if you base it on what he was able to accomplish in the recruiting class and what he's doing in the transfer portal.
Yeah, because how many transfers they got already?
12.
12. I'm assuming they're all pretty, are they impact players like right now? Is that what the speculation is?
So one of their top guys they went and got was Miles Frazier. He was at Florida International. He came in at Florida International as a 2-star recruit out of high school. Started there as a freshman, freshman All-American. He becomes a 4-star transfer because of how good he was. Now he's coming to LSU, and he's likely going to start. And the thing what Brian Kelly was doing in this transfer portal is he was going to get guys who could compete right now. 4 out of the 5 spots on the offensive line are going to be new people. So what did he do? He went and got experience. He's like, I'm not going to go with freshmen or inexperienced players who have not played because Brian Kelly understands that he's got to win. So
you threw me off when you said 4-star Florida International. It just doesn't sound.
It just sounds a little weird to me.
He was a 2-star coming in out of high school, out of New Jersey. But when he went in the transfer portal, they graded him as a 4-star. He went and got Tremont Shorts, Mekhi Wingo out of Missouri, who's a 3-star freshman. He was a freshman all SEC. And so, but the way he's doing and going about it, I think getting Miles Brennan to come back to pull his name from the transfer portal was big. And some of these guys he's getting, like he went to Oklahoma State. He's getting guys to come back to Louisiana. A lot of these guys already had ties. So getting them to come back, and that's kind of how he's having to rebuild his roster while still recruiting positions of need.
So do you think this hurts, and JT, maybe you can answer it first if you want, but do you think this hurts? All right, we know that maybe it takes away scholarships from a high school kid.
It does.
Yeah, so what about the JUCO kid, all those kind of stuff now, though? Is that what are they considered at that point? They're just considered transfers if you come out of JUCO. Does it hinder them that so many people are out there, or does that change the landscape at all between JUCO regular transfers, I guess, and the high school student? What do you think?
I think it impacts everybody. You think about it. I mean, you have 25 scholarships you can offer in a class. Now, NCAA has come out and said, hey, if you lose guys in the transfer portal, you can replace up to 7 scholarships immediately. So a class like this year, LSU is looking at bringing in 32 guys to fill those 32 holes. The 25 roster spots they get for scholarships is 7. But, I think it does impact because you're taking away a high school scholarship, an incoming high school kid. How many of these kids get a scholarship pulled out from underneath them because I'm going to go and get this transfer kid because he can play immediately, and I know he can. I've watched him. I recruited him to this college, So yeah, it's going to make an impact, but perhaps that helps some of these other schools, lower tier schools, who can offer them, more playing time right off the bat. So, perhaps that helps those guys. Uh, the Texas Techs of the world, the SMUs, the TCUs, who aren't always in line for these 5-star guys. Maybe it helps them get some of those other 4-star guys or high 3-star guys that maybe weren't considering them before because they wanted to go to an Alabama, Georgia, somewhere in the SEC, because obviously SEC produces more NFL talent than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was figuring the NIL was going to take up for those smarter schools anyway. That they're going to be able to offer some good change to try to entice them a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but also the bigger schools are going to have more pocket change, I guess you could say, to offer these kids. So any kind of advantage you look at and say, oh, well, some of the smaller schools will now have more opportunity. Well, now we have NIL, and you got NCAA's crooked president over here crying for the Congress to come in and try and regulate it because he has no control. It's a mess. But I mean, you're seeing it with I know Alabama's doing it. We know Texas A&M's doing it. I've heard all the stuff behind the scenes. They're doing it. They're not as vocal as maybe Texas, who was like saying, "Hey, if you come play, we're going to give you $50,000 if you're an offensive lineman." They're not being as vocal about it, but I mean, all the big schools are going to be doing it, and some of these schools like Alabama, who have a very talent-rich uh, group of former students and athletes, they're going to be able to get those guys in.
Was that the spirit of the rule, though, JT? Like he's saying, just to offer money? Because I didn't think that. How can a university just say it, and not some company?
The university can't.
It's a donor. The school didn't do it. No, it was donors who were saying, "Hey, if you come play, they can." But there has to be. Like, I don't know the rule to a T, but I thought it had to be something where they have to represent a company. Kind of like a sponsorship deal. Hey, we'll pay you this if you drive around in our truck.
All these fake LLCs we got going on out here now.
Hey, well, I would say that's not a problem with college football. That's a problem with the system at large.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's what I'm saying. And you got the Mark Emmert over here crying about it, and it's like, you're the president of the NCAA. Shouldn't you do something about it? I mean,
but you can't reel it back. How are you going to reel it back now?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is they opened the floodgates before people were ready for it.
Well, yeah, our good buddy Mario, who's at Notre Dame, kind of told us a little bit about that, as much as he could, about there's some things they needed to work through, and I'm sure they looking at it now than saying that I don't think this is the way they intended it to be. I think it's a good thing that the players can get played, but I don't think they thought it was going to end up being like this.
I think you could say the same thing about the transfer portal. I don't think they thought. I don't think they thought that we were getting a college free agency, and really what it is.
I'm telling you, sometimes all you got to do is just ask Saban. Saban will tell you exactly what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got the. I mean, that dude's a smart man, and he's manipulating it. Is that the right word I can say? All their rules.
He's taking advantage. I mean,
yeah, to his advantage. And so I don't know. I guess people just have to figure it out and try to be like him in this. So what do you think about that? Since you're in the SEC landscape, do you really get to take a look at everyone else? Where they're at. What are you seeing for tomorrow? Is there some things that kind of, I don't know, some bombshells or some things that you're thinking about that may change the landscape, whether it's in the SEC or across the country? You had mentioned about Jim Harbaugh or
Well, nobody heard that conversation but us. So, we can talk about Jim Harbaugh and
just before we hop on here, I see a report that Jim Harbaugh is likely to take the job at Minnesota Vikings, and so now you're looking at Michigan, and how does that play in? They currently have 22 players who have signed their national letters of intent, so they're locked in. They have one player, Cavante Henry, 4-star recruit out of California, who is he's looking at Michigan. He's a hard commit to Michigan, is what they'll call a hard commit. They pretty much expect him to sign, but he was also getting a lot of attention from Arizona. And so he potentially, this news could turn him completely to go into Arizona. So the Michigan situation is going to be interesting. And then, I feel for the kids who have signed that national letter of intent, and now Jim Harbaugh, the day before National Signing Day, a report comes out that he's leaving. So all those 22 kids are locked in. But the other part of this is we just went through this wild coaching carousel where we saw things that we had never seen before, right? People don't leave Notre Dame unless they're fired or retired. They don't just leave for another job. Oklahoma had never seen a coach leave willingly for another program. With USC and Lincoln Riley, we saw a lot of craziness with the coaching carousel. And now you look at Michigan, and it's kind of like, well, who do they go after now that whole carousel thing's done? After we saw, I think it was 30-something coaches leaving for other jobs, and now and obviously you also have the NFL who's poaching, right? They're taking a Jim Harbaugh.
Michigan can go get Brian Flores.
I was about to say, go get Brian Flores, baby. Sign him up.
I don't know if he want to recruit. I mean, because you have to admit, college coaching, head coaching gig is completely different than the NFL.
For sure.
But
they can go get Deion Sanders then. Go get prime time over in Michigan. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting. I think that would be an interesting move. That'd be crazy. Is he taking Travis Henry with him?
Right, man.
Or Hunter.
This is all right. So how do we feel about this December date now with all this stuff that's happening? Is it even worth having 2 signing days?
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I'll tell you what. I thought it was good for one reason. These kids who can sign early, who can graduate high school early, who can enroll at their college, get into the program, get 6 months ahead of everybody else as far as conditioning, learning their playbook, learning the system, working with a strength coach, the things that they don't really have at the high school level. Now, I do know that some high schools do have all that. There are some high schools who can afford those type of things. But for the most part, you don't have the access. You'll have the strength and conditioning, the nutrition, everything that comes with a college football program. So I thought it was good initially. But with all of the coaching movement, I really think they need to push National Signing Day, either have one signing day in February or push it even further back.
Well, maybe they need to do they should have more kids like the dude from California, I'm not even going to try to say his name, but he ended up committing on July 4th or something like that. That's when he signed his letter of intent and decided to go to USC or Washington or wherever it was. Just put it
late.
Yeah, he said that, and there's another kid that's supposed to be doing that this year that said that he wasn't going to commit until March. Basically saying we got all this coaching turnover and all these transfers and whatnot. And I'm just going to wait until all that dies down, let them go through spring ball, and we'll really see what teams are trying to do, and I'll commit in the summer.
That's risky.
I mean, not really. I don't think it's that risky. The reason why I say that is most of these kids who sign in February, um, they don't actually join until June. They don't, or July, get into the summer program before fall camp. So I mean, it's a difference of a couple months. But I just don't think it's fair to the kids, so to speak,
Yeah.
when you have this recruiting class and you fire a coach or a coach leaves right before it. Now the LSU situation was different because we knew back in October Ed Orgeron was gone, right? Because
Mhm.
then they could start their process right there. I mean, they could have hired a coach right then and there.
Yep.
They could have done what Texas Tech did, and they hired their coach mid-season, but he didn't do anything with the team. All he did was recruit. That was all he was doing. He was recruiting and putting together his staff. Um, and that is an option, but most of the time when you hire a new coach, you're likely going to poach a coach from another staff. When are they going to leave? Well, they're not going to leave until after the regular season's over. They might leave before the bowl game. They're not going to leave until after the regular season's over in most cases, unless they're fired. So I think moving it back would be beneficial. That way, you're not messing with recruiting. These kids can actually see who the coach is going to be, and maybe we see less of this turmoil of these coaches saying, "Oh, I'm not going to coach in the bowl game. Good luck. I'm going to my new team." Maybe
When
we
you
eliminate some of that.
when you say moving back, are you thinking like later in December? Are you talking
Move it to
January?
February.
Or
Make
just going
nationals
back to the way it has been. Tomorrow is the date,
right.
but you do eliminate the other part that you're talking about, the
Yeah,
early, what do you call it? Early
Early
signing
the
enrollees.
window
early
in
enrollees.
January.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, the
the
early
early
signing
enrollees.
period. Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's middle of December, right? And they're signing, and then they're getting ready to be in an early enrollee in
in
January.
January.
Yeah,
Yes. It would change the whole landscape again if you go back. I really don't know. I don't know why they did it in the beginning. Maybe it was because of that. I didn't like it. I can tell you, I still don't like it as athletic director at John Paul II High School because I got to do the little signing day thing in November, with volleyball and all the other kind of stuff. And then if you got early football guys, you got to do that in December. Then I got to turn around and do one tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got to get up, and I mean, it's the two in December and February are definitely crucial because you could be doing two football signings. I'm speaking as an athletic director now that we actually could be doing two different parties because one person signs the early letter and then we got to do it again. So yeah, I'd rather have one too in February, for my
I
own
just
selfish reasons.
well, yeah, there's a selfish reason there. But when you look at it, when you look at the coaching aspect and the changes there, and I just think it would be better, just because like you said, you get this. I mean, now maybe having it in February doesn't stop a Jim Harbaugh situation, but I don't think that those pop up a whole lot. Usually, the coaching changes are made in December, and that
Yes,
still gives coaches a month and a half to really
go
finish out their
recruit.
class, and doing what some of these coaches are doing right now, where they're going out and they're recruiting a small class of 13 to 15 kids, maybe, and then going and filling the rest of their class out in the transfer portal. We saw that with Billy Napier at Florida. He's kind of doing it the same way as we're seeing Brian Kelly do it at LSU, and more coaches across the
Here's a
nation are doing it.
radical idea. We have dead periods for when coaches can contact players. They can't speak between these dates or whatever. What if we had like a dead period on when you could fire coaches? It's like, all right, in the middle of the season, fine. Fair game. You can fire a coach whenever you want to in the middle of the season. And then you have like a 2-week period after the season in which you can fire the coach. But then after that date, the coach is safe until after the first game of the next season. You can't fire him until next season.
Ooh,
And then at least you know that your coach is there for at least one game next season.
I will tell you.
That's a case of the firing, but what about the coach wanting to leave?
Because then you have buyouts and all that. Yeah. No, I'm going to piggyback off your thought there, JT. I'm going to say if that's the case and you want to do a period like that, I think they should do that with the transfer portal. I don't think, honestly, I understand there's extenuating circumstances, but at the same time, these kids are coming and going. It could be after game 3 of the season. Oh, I'm going to enter the transfer portal. I'm done. I think there needs to be a process, a time, kind of like, NFL free agency. You can't do anything until this date. I think there needs to be like, in the off season, I think after signing day,
fun. I like that. Like you're saying, free agency starts up March, whatever the day
it is free
transfer deal. Hey, you can jump in the portal come spring break.
I understand it. I don't like it, but I understand it.
Oh, I do too. And I'm not saying that there's something that like this should be done. Just giving the ideas. I think there needs. I think there needs to be. Like you said, there's a dead period. I think that transfer portals should have the same thing, because honestly, if they're leaving at any time, like I think it hurts recruiting. Honestly, if you enter the transfer portal in the middle of the season and you commit to your next school, well, before they can even talk to any recruits, that's already one scholarship gone. So,
well, I mean, I guess this way you got coaches like Dabo. It's just like, look, I'm not taking any transfers.
Yeah, now he's taking transfers. he saw what he had this year and was like, okay, I'll take some transfers. So that's kind of how it goes. But I was going to talk about, George's point when he's talking about surprises tomorrow. It's kind of interesting. I'm seeing a lot. I know LSU and Florida have a annual battle, kind of their cross divisional rivalry. But Billy Napier and Brian Keller are kind of fighting for the same guys right now. So that's really interesting. And then the guys that and the guy that even George, you'll be interested in, Danny Lewis Jr. out of Westgate in New Iberia, tight end. He's looking at Alabama. He's looking at LSU. He originally committed to play at Cincinnati with Mike Denbrock. Now Denbrock is offensive coordinator at LSU. A lot of people thought he was just going to come there, but with Jaleel Billingsley entering the transfer portal, now all of a sudden Alabama has a need for a tight end. And Danny Lewis is a 6'4", 240-pound tight end. Not so much your inline guy. He's more of a big slot receiver, but he could be a guy. He's a guy that I'm looking at. I kind of feel like he's leaning towards LSU. I mean, he just did the goofy video with Brian Kelly dancing, but he could go to Alabama. That's a recruiting battle I'm looking for.
No, that's interesting because that's what Billingsley was supposed to be. Sounds like, right?
Yeah, maybe change of scenery does him good because from what I've heard behind the scenes, he didn't do everything that was expected of him. Doing things the right way, going to class, going to practice, working hard. I mean, Saban, he's no nonsense. I mean, you either do the program that he presents to you or you don't play. That's as simple as that. He doesn't care how many stars are next to your name on the recruiting board. If you don't do your job the way he wants you to do it, you're not playing.
Sounds like a good coach to me.
I have no problem with that. So we'll see if reuniting with Steve Sarkisian down in Austin does him some good. Who knows? We'll see. It's going to be interesting on that game. That Texas
Austin's going to be worse because there's too many distractions in Austin. At least in Tuscaloosa, there ain't a whole lot going on.
Well, they got monkeys biting people in Austin and strippers dating coaches and all kinds of things going on in Austin.
Yeah, a little different down there. You got to be focused if you're going to play
all the
down that way.
Yeah, no, but at least in Tuscaloosa, I can go and get me a Whataburger, so I'm good if I got when I have to go there.
Wait, they got
Yeah, go to
Whataburger in
Checkers.
Tuscaloosa now?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, the world it's over. It's over.
Yo, now the Whataburger means it's a big city now.
Yeah, it's a national chain now. It's not even a.
Yeah, we need the old college food around there. The old Checkers.
Yeah, no. So that's one. Harold Perkins, 5-star linebacker, rated number 4 in the country. From what I've heard, and don't quote me on this, but what I've heard is he's leaning towards LSU. He was really impressed by Brian Kelly. His family seemed impressed.
Did he do a 360 dance video with Brian Kelly?
It didn't come out. He might have, but they didn't post it on social media.
They probably put him in one of them sleep pods, though, or whatever. All that new fancy stuff that LSU bought a couple years ago.
Jacoby Matthews,
Matthews,
5-star safety. It's kind of down between. It was them, Texas A&M, Florida. Seems like he's leaning LSU. Trevante Citizen, running back out of Lake Charles. He's looking at Auburn. He's looking at Miami. He's looking at Florida. I don't really know what to think of that one. That's one that I'm kind of paying attention to on the LSU front as far as where he might go.
Yeah, I guess there's probably be a good, interesting show. Do you get involved with any of the live shows that happen during the signing period tomorrow?
I don't, because I'm kind of looking at other guys. Typically I'm doing that, and I'm kind of trying to get a head start on the 2023 class. And I see what you're saying about the dance videos. They need to stop. They're just plain creepy. Here's my thing on that. I agree they're creepy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that they're not. But it's one of those social media tools that recruits love, right? They love getting the specialized videos. I don't know if the Brian Kelly thing, but whose idea was that?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you that because, like, how does that conversation happen? It's like, hey, you want to go in this room and we're going to turn the lights off and we're going to stand in the middle and have somebody circles around with a camera while we both kind of like awkwardly grind on each other.
Their marketing person came up with that.
Yeah, it's definitely a marketing. It has to be a marketing thing. But when the first one came out was Walker Howard, the 5-star quarterback, it was rumored he was going to go to Notre Dame. But when Brian Kelly came here, it was kind of like, oh, that's a done deal. Like, he wanted to play for Brian Kelly. So I would not put it past Walker Howard to ask Brian Kelly to do that because of how much he respected him and doing the Colin Baton Rouge song and all that. But it's a marketing tool. I agree they're creepy. I agree it's not the greatest thing. But here's my thing. If they continue to do those videos, recruits continue to love it and continue to commit to LSU, why would you stop?
That's fair.
Because there's going to be a lawsuit.
I think until you're threatened with one, you kind of got to keep going.
Then he'll be coaching at Georgia State or something. No, the way this world is now, people got to get creative. I mean, shoot, you even got Nick Saban not dancing like that, but having him do the electric slide with people and whatever he's been doing. You can get.
Hey, I didn't think I'd ever see him do like Affleck commercials. Like he's getting involved in all that because I never thought I'd see him in commercials.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to. It was just different world. If your head coach can be a little bit different. Well, Les Miles was starting at it at Kansas, not dancing.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like you kind of expect that from Les Miles, though. Like, if there's any coach who's going to do it,
he's kind of off the wall. Yeah, I mean, eating grass or whatever, that whole deal, eating turf. I don't even remember what it all was, but yeah, he's definitely a guy that I could definitely see doing it because he's a little off his rocker.
That's right. Is he done? Is he just done?
He's got to be. Yeah. Ever since he got fired from Kansas for the whole LSU thing and that lawsuit they're still going through, I don't think he's getting hired anytime soon.
Okay, so So I don't know what all the averages are. I don't have the thing up, but at the end of the day tomorrow, I know this is a all guessing or whatnot. But how do you think it's going to shake out? If you were sitting here right now, Patrick, saying, okay, these are going to be the top 5, stay in the SEC.
Top 5 classes. See, that's an interesting one to kind of look at. Team rankings, kind of where they're. I mean, I think. Are we talking overall, like transfer?
Yes, let's go
Okay.
overall, including
Okay.
transfers, or does that make it harder or easier?
Nah, it's I think I
Well,
still think it's going to
you
come
got your
down.
little data board. You got your little data board like JT over there. We just plug in stuff, and this fancy algorithm kicks out.
Hey, I was about to say
they
have a class calculator on 24/7 Sports. So if you want to just start adding people to classes and see what the score is going to be.
I've actually done that. Kind of see where people are going to land. When I look at it, I still think it's going to come down to, obviously it's going to be A&M, Alabama are going to be 1 and 2. Which order they are, I can't tell you right now because, I mean, yeah, they lost Harold Perkins, but that leaves another spot for another 5-star guy that they could potentially get. I've heard some rumors that Overton could be one of those guys, or I know I'm butchering his name, Everton. He's a linebacker. I think it's going to be Texas at 5, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M. I could say definitely I would lean towards Alabama at the number 1 spot.
You said A&M, Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, and what was the other one?
Georgia.
Okay.
It's the overall top, top 5. Now in the SEC, I'll throw.
Where you put LSU,
number
LSU
4
or Florida? Oh,
Florida. LSU and then Ole Miss, because Ole Miss just got Michael Trigg, tight end from USC, and they added Jackson Dart as a 5-star transfer quarterback. So Ole Miss has done a good job of reloading, not having to go through the process of recruiting a guy, trying to develop him. They got a guy who's had game experience. Maybe it's not as much as they would like, but Jackson Dart's one of those top end quarterbacks. So, and he's from West Coast. So,
is there any school? Well, which of the schools so far are you surprised to see as high as they are in the rankings, and which one do you think surprises you because of how low they are?
I'll start with the high one. I'm a little surprised at how high Florida is, considering Dan Mullins didn't like recruiting.
Oh yeah, I mean the fact that they're back up at 19, I agree with you, because when we had talked about this earlier, they were down in the 60s.
Yeah, it was bad, but the one thing that Billy Napier has done since he got there, obviously, he's done a good job of recruiting top talent. He got Kamari Wilson out of the IMG Academy, one of the top safeties in the country, to come there. He got Trevor Etienne, who is Travis Etienne's little brother, running back out of Jennings, Louisiana. I think he was a 4-star running back. He got him committed there. He's done a good job. They added Jack Miller, former Ohio State Buckeyes quarterback, through the transfer portal to kind of figure out what they're going to do with Emory Jones, Anthony Richardson. They have a list of guys. I think Kitna's son is there too. John Kitna, former Cowboys quarterback, his son's there too. So trying to figure out what they're doing at the quarterback position. But I would say overall, the fact that they're even in the top 20 was a shock to me. Missouri has done a pretty good job. They were able to flip the top wide receiver, Luther Burden from Oklahoma, even before this whole Lincoln Riley thing happened. So I think that's a little bit of a surprise, especially considering where they finished in the regular season. Can Coach Drinkwitz, can he turn them back to where they were when they first joined the SEC? I don't know if you remember back in 2012 and 2013, their first 2 seasons there in the SEC East, they won the East and went to the SEC championship.
Yeah, I remember them beating up on them bad teams over there.
And you ran through them. But can he do something? Teams that a little bit surprising to see, like lower tier. I'm honestly I'm surprised to see Cincinnati only being number 50, considering they just. I know they don't play in a Power Five, but they just played in the college football playoffs. You look at a team like Utah, outside the top 30, Oregon outside the top 30. Now you could say, well, Oregon just lost their head coach and they had to go get Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator out of Georgia. But that's a team that used to be, top 10 every year. And maybe that speaks to just how down the Pac-12 is. And kids don't want to go there because they know they're not going to play in a national championship. They know they're not going to play in a premier, bowl game at the end of the year.
They don't know if they're going to play anyway because of COVID.
There is that. And it's, in going into the COVID season where I think they played, 6 or 7 games that year. Mm-hmm. Much less than everybody else did. You look at where they're at. It's kind of surprising. How about South Carolina will be another good surprise? They're just inside the top 30. They got Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. They got Austin Stogner from Oklahoma through the transfer portal. So I mean they surprised some teams last year, but now they're going to have a little bit more talent, and we'll see if Spencer Rattler can get right behind, between the ears. Because if he can, when he's on, he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, bar none. It's just, can he get it between the ears? And we'll see if his old coach, Shane Beamer, can get that out of him.
I'll give you my surprise. The team that I didn't think would be this high is Vanderbilt at 30.
Yeah, no, I mean, in front of Cincinnati.
Yeah, they're like 10 spots ahead of Cincinnati, but at the same time, just an interesting stat of these numbers is that the Vanderbilt has the worst class in the SEC at 14 of 14, and they're still a top 30 recruiting class.
And it tells you that how the SEC is viewed regardless, right? You look at Vanderbilt, and they've got a top, a top 40 class.
Where's SMU at on that list?
Low.
At the screen, so where are they at?
They've fallen off. I think I have
fallen off the top 50.
They are at least on the list that I'm looking at on 24/7 Sports. They are right at number 100.
Man, that just seems, I don't know, with all the noise they were making.
Well, it's because Sonny Dykes left and all those.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you even have Jackson State at number 80. That's a surprise.
Well, yeah, Dion, that high or that low?
Well, that high, I think because of, they got the top player in the country.
Where's the next HBCU? How far away would that be? Yeah. Probably not even on the list, but I was just wondering, if he's at 80, where's the next one at?
I don't see Jackson State on mine, but we're clearly
looking at I'm looking at the overall listing.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I got Jackson State at like 119.
Yeah, I think when you look at theirs, just recruiting, but when you look at their transfers, and I don't really see any other ones. Yeah. It's like way down the list. So, I think that's pretty high. Considering who they got as far as, the top player in the country.
Is the amount of money these kids making, is this public knowledge? Yeah, I'm just thinking like coaching salaries and all this other kind of stuff. Did these NIL deals become public knowledge?
Well, I don't think
private.
I'm not going to say they're private, but I think it's just like it's kind of like some of these coaching salaries until USA Today puts out their annual coaching salaries. I mean, I think it's all guesswork, or it's based on not guesswork, so to speak, but sources, right? You kind of have to try to piece things together. Because I heard, Quinn Ewers was making over $1 million when he was at Ohio State his freshman year, and he barely played. So I mean, Nick Saban came out and was talking about 7-figure deals for Bryce Young. And then he went out and won the Heisman. So I mean, obviously he's probably worth it to put his name to any company that want to represent him. And so, I don't know that we'll ever know true dollar amounts, but I'm sure eventually one of these insiders that follows the financials is going to figure it out eventually.
Well, they're all going to start pulling up for spring football practice in G-Wagons and another thing. People that didn't like the athletes now, they're,
I was about to say they was all getting Hellcats before, so.
Yeah, man. Good Lord.
I mean, but that's going back to
Dollar Tree. That's
funny. That even goes back to the Pony Express and showing up in a what was it, a Trans Am that Eric Dickerson showed up at SMU.
Yeah, probably something with, I don't know, Z28, something. I don't know.
I think it was a Trans Am. Yeah, I think it was a Trans Am, and I thought it was interesting. But when he was talking about it, he didn't even want to go to Texas A&M, but he felt like he had to because they offered him a car. And I guess somebody at SMU talked to him, and he goes, "What are they going to do? Report you?"
Right.
Right. And so but now it's legal, right? I mean, there's really nothing they can do. If a car dealership in, let's say a truck dealership, Ford House or whatever, GMC, they're in Tuscaloosa, wants to offer one of these kids a truck to put their face on a billboard or whatever, there's nothing they can do about it. And it's going to convince some of these kids to go.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch college football and, pro football as well. I think it's just the landscape is different. This old man is trying to get used to it and deal with it as best I can. And, I don't know, maybe it makes for better podcast talk throughout the off season and spring football and how really, I wonder what the percentage of kids are that actually go to school early now. How many kids actually sign in December and actually go in January. That would be some data I would be interested in and how much that's changing. The early graduation period, how many people are leaving school early to go to college. And then actually how many of them actually pan out to play well the first year. So I don't know, JT, you have to find something. What is that, JT? You still got the bot going on out there? What's the bot's name again?
The bot's name is Nightbot. He yelled at Wayland because he used too many emojis. Apparently, this one right here.
Oh, that's awesome.
So here's Nightbot's message. Stop spamming symbols.
Wow. There he is. Yeah, well, hey man. JT will work on that. I guess he'll feed the bot a little bit of food. Y'all don't get to see the bot. The bot is real. He just ain't in the thing. He got big ugly teeth.
Oh my God.
He's sitting over there. Oh, is that your diploma back there that I paid for laying on the floor back there? Come on, man.
If it was on the wall, you couldn't see it.
oh, really? It sounded like you had that ready already.
But in all honesty, ever since we started streaming from home, it's been right there.
I don't think I've really seen that. Maybe you've been blocking it with your body in the past or something. Or I just wasn't paying attention because I think that Cane's cup been there for a little while too. You need to throw that doggone Cane's
that's not
cup
mine.
away.
You need to talk to the wife.
Well, she's an LSU fan too, so I don't do.
Well, Patrick said he's not an LSU fan. He said you better get that straight.
No, that's true. That's true.
I am a Joe Burrow fan, though. I'm not gonna lie. I am a Joe Burrow fan.
Okay. Well, that sounds like you're gonna be picking him to win. or at least rooting for him to win.
Either way it goes in the Super Bowl, I'm going to have something to write about because either Odell Beckham Jr. is going to win or Joe Burrow is going to win. So I'm kind of good on both sides.
Can we get the other article too on the one that loses? Can you?
Well, I
just send us that one. You don't have to publish it. Send us the one that he lost, whoever it was.
Yeah, no, it's interesting though. Talk about Burrow. If he wins the Super Bowl, he'll be the first quarterback ever to win a Heisman, win a national championship, and win a Super Bowl, and he'll have done it in a 3-year span.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
that's insane. That's insane.
And he might win Super Bowl MVP if they end up winning.
Probably him or Jamar Chase, one of the two, depending on if he's able to run all over that defense. We'll see.
Ooh, you think Burrow goes back for a new deal real quick?
Yeah, he won the Super Bowl and be like, all right, I'm retiring until you just go ahead with it. And can we void the rest of this?
Like, what's I don't follow the NFL contracts as much as I used to. Like, how long is it they
5
have to
years.
be on that contract? Well, no, I know that, but how soon before they can sign a new deal? Is it 3 years, 4 years? Because remember, Zeke, didn't he sit out his final year until they gave him a new deal?
Yeah, but they can get back to him if they want to. They don't have to wait till his deal's over with.
Yeah, I think they can extend him whenever, but he can't get the money until after that contract runs out.
Right. It's usually backloaded, or however they want to do it with these numbers, and that's why I laugh every year when we hear what's that term that people like to use, cap hell. I'm like, salary cap's not real. It's not real. Like, cap hell is not real. I mean, they got these people that work in offices to push numbers around, so we'll see.
Man, well, okay, man. Well, I know we've had you for this time, and we really, really do appreciate it very much. You really bring in a lot of great knowledge there and insight. We do appreciate you for coming on and spending some time with us, brother. I'll try not to. I'll tell our friends with the Defender of the Star Fantasy Football League that you were a great guest since you stood us up. Even JT was on the show last time too, and you didn't show up. So
yeah, I've been catching flack on social for that one. They go, oh, he's going to show up. Yeah, I showed up.
Well, we did talk about you. If you haven't listened to our episodes, you might want to go back because you got a lot of airtime because we talked about you being the
former commissioner.
What you call it? You were the commissioner, and then you turned it over. We thought you and Campbell.
Oh yeah, they were blaming you for all kinds of things about playoffs starting at the wrong time and all. Like,
hey, and that's easy to do when I'm not there. But I was telling JT before we hopped on here, I was like, weekends are kind of hard for me. I got college football to worry about. I got college basketball to worry about.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not running a high school athletic department or anything, but
well, one might argue that he's not either. This John Griffin is doing all the work.
Oh my gosh, really? That's where we're going?
I didn't say I said one might. I didn't say I did.
Well, you call yourself the one. So when you say
true.
One might, I'm figuring that's you. But hey, y'all, make sure y'all give Patrick a follow. You can find him on Twitter at Patrick Conn CFB.
That's Conn with two N's.
With two N's. So, particularly you SEC fans, and if you're trying to catch the scoop on what's happening out there in LSU and beyond, just check him out because he's going to be. He posts a lot of stuff.
I don't just do LSU. I talk a whole lot.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good opinion on a lot of different things. Him and JT are a lot of similar. They're very similar. They tell it how it is, So he'll even talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, Yes, I
because he
will.
is.
And if people don't really like my opinions on the Cowboys either.
Well, yeah, they don't
Yep.
like my opinions either, but that's okay.
Yep. So, Patrick, we're gonna let you go. Everybody else stay put for a second because me and JT actually want to talk about Brian Flores and his lawsuit for a quick few minutes. So, Patrick, we appreciate you very much. All right, brother. I don't know if he dipped.
Yep, he's
or
already
not.
gone.
Okay, good. Man, that was great, JT, that he was able to, give us some insight, man, on that. I thought he was just all the things that he brought to the table, a lot of great perspectives. You know, around the SEC and the league. I'm really intrigued by that Harbaugh thing. I really want to see how that's going to turn out tomorrow for them and what that looks like. I didn't get to ask him about the potential transfers out of Michigan and what those rules actually look like, but we'll be able to follow up with that in another week. So before we get into Flores, I do want to remind everybody that next week we're also going to have another guest, another recruiter. So we're going to have what do you want to say? A debrief, JT? Would that be the best way to
I
put
think
it?
debrief is probably the right word there.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to have Mr. Tom Lemming on as a guest. He is Tom Lemming of the Lemming Report, where he does things on a national scale when it comes to recruiting and watching that. So he'll come on and kind of give us his take after this happens, and we'll rehash it again and see what really happened and see what the pluses and minuses are. And so make sure you guys tune in next Tuesday night. He'll be on live with us as well. Okay, but before we go, let's talk about Flores a little bit, JT. So it was reported that I probably should have had you take that screenshot that you gave me, that the Rooney Rule was broken by which team was it now?
Was it broken?
Well, I think that's what the lawsuit is coming from.
About the Giants?
By the Giants. So Belichick apparently sent Flores some text messages that he thought he was sending to Dabo about him being accepted for the job, and he was actually sending it to Brian Flores, and so he apparently it has upset Brian, as it rightfully should, because the Rooney Rule used to say that you had to interview one non-white coach, one African American, for those positions. Well, it changed. The rule changed this year that you have to interview two non-white.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So they did. So a lot of people are saying, well, no, they met the Rooney Rule because they had interviewed Leslie Frazier for the spot, which they did, but they didn't have the second one come in, which was going to be Brian Flores. And so he's reading it saying to Belichick that Belichick basically said they were going with Dabo. He was congratulating him for the job. And he's like, well, hold on a second. Now in hindsight, so they're saying they already made the decision before he actually came in for his interview. Hence, this is why this is going down this way. So our inside family reporter, Teague, said, man, are y'all going to talk about this at all? So I really didn't know all the scoop, and I hadn't paid a whole lot of attention, but this is why now I think they're trying to say, okay, now there's going to be a lot of talk about what the Rooney Rule actually means. Is it working? The whole thing of just bringing people in if you know you're not going to hire them, which we've talked about. I don't know if we talked about this on the show or not, JT, before, but I know we've talked about it personally, that they're just bringing guys in and they don't even really mean to hire them. So
yeah, there's a lot of guys that routinely get interview that routinely get interviewed by teams that are clearly not serious candidates.
Yes. And so in this case, you're saying, and now I'm not, please no, I'm not, I don't want to, I'm not making this more racial than it needs to be. All right. But that's what people are kind of saying with this. And so, you kind of saw an influx of African Americans getting interviews, multiple interviews, right? So you saw Todd Bowles and just some other names they're coming up, and I can see why it might have been an uptick, because now they're saying you got to have two guys that you're looking at for your head coach position or someone in the front office. So I don't know that we're making it any better for us in that sense. Since the Rooney Rule has been put in, man, it's been a lot of years now. I don't think the number of coaches, African-American head coaches or coordinators, has actually gone up at all. And we can look at that. And so he's saying, all right, what are we doing? They're going to hire who they want to hire. I know we need to try to help each other and try to give some people some opportunities. But if it's just this, if something like this is happening where you're saying, hey, we're just going to bring the guy in. This is our guy, but we got to meet these guidelines of meeting these quotas on bringing in minorities. Again, doesn't have to be black, but some type of minority person in here. Why are we wasting people's time? In this. And then when something like this happens, well, heck yeah, he got a lawsuit. So he will make this racial, probably saying, hey, they're just saying what I'm saying, I'm sure. I don't know if there's any case. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what that means. But if some of these reports that are coming out saying he's going to go on television tomorrow, again, I don't know if there's any truth to it with his lawyers and attorneys and kind of talk about this. Could get kind of ugly pretty fast, I would imagine, because someone's got JT. What do we say? Somebody's got some splaining to do. So I don't know how you feel it, JT. I know maybe you don't want to hit on that at all, but your first gut reaction, just based upon what I said here.
I mean,
NFL in trouble?
No, I mean, is the NFL is the NFL ever really in trouble?
Well, are the Giants
in
trouble? Who has to be held accountable if the Rooney Rule was broke? Okay, all speculation.
If the Rooney Rule was broken, then the Giants should be held responsible. However,
what is that? A draft pick, $200,000?
That's what I'm saying. However, it's not going to happen. I mean, Dan Snyder's still the owner of football team, so I don't, because the owner would be the one that would have to suffer the consequences, whatever those are. But that would require the other 31 owners to approve whatever punishment it is for that owner. And nobody wants to do that. That's why Dan Snyder still owns the football team. Because they, as much as, we want to, Goodell has his own fights and problems that he has with the way that he arbitrarily hands out decisions or whatnot. But at the end of the day, his bosses are the 32 NFL owners, and he can't levy any punishment against his boss without the other 31 owners, the other 31 bosses telling him that he can do so. And they're not going to do that. Much like, this is how the Rams end up in LA. Not because they're supposed to, but because despite all the protocols they had in place to tell the Rams that, hey, you can't actually move from St. Louis because that's not in the rules right now. You have to wait. And the owners are like, just let him go. Whatever. Jerry said he can go. So now the Rams are in LA. And they just do whatever they want to because they can. Like, who's going to tell them no?
Yeah, it's just a black eye. If it's true, I don't know. I'm not saying, but if it's true, that's like it's just a black eye. What do you do next year? Him or any other uh, minority coach, and you're on this list, then you're just second guessing, like, especially if you're the fifth interviewee or sixth or whatever, and you're going, all right, now you're picking up the phone like, all right, am I meeting the quota here, or are we
Mhm. Well, I mean, this is
Yeah.
I really kind of think that when we went back to when we were talking about Mike Tomlin being asked if he was going to go to any of these college jobs, I think really in the back of his mind when he was like, yeah, there's no booster with the big enough blank check, what he was really saying was, if I go to college and it ends up not going great and I get fired, like there's a very close to zero chance that I might get another head coaching gig
back in here.
because I mean, I'm sure Mike Tomlin probably, like, if Mike Tomlin just decided to leave, I'm sure Mike Tomlin would get another one. But in the grand scheme of things, he's like, it probably won't be with the Steelers, and I'm gonna have to fight and do all these extra things and more hurdles that I got to go through to get back.
Yep. And I think you're right about that. Very, very good point. And it's sad, that to me in this point, and I know it's touchy, and these are those hot buttons where people hit stuff about whatever, about the race relations and what does the NFL look like with the number of African Americans in it versus the number of coaches and all that kind of stuff. Man, shoot, it's a very tough situation, a sticky situation. If something like this is deemed to be true, it definitely doesn't make it any better. But I've always said I didn't like the Rooney Rule. I didn't like it whatsoever, because I think people were just being pawned just to come in and do an interview and never had a chance. And if this is the case, somebody got to, I don't know what you do. I didn't get down through the rules on what penalties are, but man, that's just, so you sue. What do you sue for? I don't even know what the proper,
I don't know,
legal thing, because you're not being slandered or defamed or what is that
I don't know. I'm sure there's something
called?
I'm sure there's a coaches association, right, where this comes, because I mean, I don't know how the Rooney Rule came about, but I can't imagine that the Rooney Rule came about by the NFL and the owners being like, hey, we should do something about this. I'm sure like there was a coaches association that was complaining, and this was one of the things that they collectively bargained, right? Where they were like, all right, we'll give you this one, but y'all just shut up about the rest of the stuff.
That brings up a good point, because I really don't know what the coach. I know we got the NFLPA representing the players, and then you got the NFL or the owners that always work on the collective bargaining agreement and trying to find a match. But I don't know where that fits the coaches, because they're not on the NFLPA side. I guess it would have to be.
No, they've got the.
I don't know if it's on the NFL side.
Oh, you mean like whether the NFLCA, like which way they lean? They lean towards the players, or they lean towards the coaches, or lean towards the league?
Well, yes, but this case, like what you're making that point, that if they created the Rooney Rule,
I don't think they created it. I think that was a compromise. I think there's some things, just like, the NFL, the NFLPA and the NFL go through where they say, the NFL wants to play more games. And the players are like, well, we don't want to play more games. 16 is enough, plus playoffs, all this kind of stuff. And they're like, well, we want to play more games. So what if we reduce practice time? And they're like, well, based on all these injuries, we probably should reduce practice time anyway. So that should be a given. Well, we still want to play more games. So, all right, fine. We'll get rid of a preseason game. Does that work? And the players are probably like, we would rather just not do any preseason games. And the NFL is like, we got to do preseason games. So we'll get rid of one. And they're like, all right, fine. I think that back and forth conversation probably happened with the Coaches Association, where I don't know what they'd be going back and forth on, but that topic probably came up, and the NFL was like, all right, what if we just agree that we're going to hire, or that we're going to interview at least one minority every year? And they kind of just like swept that in because there were other bigger fish to fry that the coaches were worried about. And they're like, all right, fine, we'll take that and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I try to be realist and right down the middle. But if it was, and you tell me if it just, you had the quota where you were trying to do one, nobody was getting hired. So now, like you taking your lead with that maybe the Coaches Association come back and says, well, then now you need to interview 2 because no one's still getting hired. So you're going to have a bigger pool of minorities to pull from. So, now in this case, now you're with 8 teams, you're at least getting, I guess, would it be a total of 16? Does it have to be separate or whatnot? But you got a lot of different coaches that you're bringing in. What makes them think just because you couldn't get the best of the best with one minority come in, now they're forcing you to interview 2?
Well, again, I don't think they came from the coaches. I still think the coaches were probably like, hey, we're still not getting a shot out here. And the NFL and the owners are secretly like, hey, we already know who we want to hire anyway, but we can get these coaches off our back if we just say, all right, how about we interview 2 of you? Will that make you feel better? And the coaches are like, no, but if that's all we're going to get, then I guess we'll take it. And then the Rooney Rule changes to 2. And then things like this still happen because clearly, like you said, I agree, the Rooney Rule doesn't work, but I legitimately don't believe that as far as the NFL is concerned, the NFL owners and the NFL side, not the coaches and the players, I legitimately believe that the Rooney Rule was never intended to work. It was intended to take the pressure off of them and make everybody feel better, but it was never actually intended to fix the problem.
Well, we'll watch the reports and have it on. I think I felt like I was going to have to do a small little short on that, just to put up on our YouTube page, and maybe I'll have to hit it after I think about it a little bit more. Hear some more on it where I can dive into it, a little bit.
I'll cut this segment up too and put it up separately
on a short little thing, because this will be interesting if it comes out and he starts pointing fingers and blaming. Man, good Lord, right before the Super Bowl, this will be, this is big news. So you heard us talking about it here first on Teague's Take. We'll continue to monitor.
Before you give the outro, I do want to say, I think that it's a big deal, but I think in 3 months it won't be a big deal. Here's why.
Okay.
The NFL just recently stopped lowering the bar for black players on concussion tests. Nobody's talking about that.
What? Oh, so you said stop lowering.
Yeah, so there was a practice that they were doing called like race normalizing or something. And when you got concussions,
level was supposed to be lower anyway or whatever.
Yes. And the NFL, like just months ago, was like, oh, we probably should stop doing that. But like it was a story for like 4 days. So that's what I'm like, this, in the grand scheme of things, Brian Flores not getting a job and cognitive bias on whether a player has a concussion or not based on whether he's black is one of those is way more important than the other one. And the other one was swept under the rug and nobody cares. That's what I'm like, I don't think this Brian Flores thing is actually going to matter, like, at all.
No, but he's going to get a big, if there's any truth to this, he's going to, not that that's the whole reason, he's going to walk away with a whole lot of money from somebody, from something, because they're going to have to.
For his sake, I hope so. But
and you can't.
Because he's not going to be able to coach in the NFL again.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, I guess once you sue an organization Or I don't know if he said if he's suing the Giants or if he's actually suing the NFL.
He's suing the
I think it's
NFL, the Giants, and the Broncos, and the Dolphins.
Well, why is he suing the Dolphins? I guess it's going to make for a good deal.
Well, I think I've only read headlines and like subtitles. I haven't read any actual articles, so I want to preface that and say I am just speaking off of the headlines I've seen. I've done no research whatsoever yet. But from what I saw, he's suing the Dolphins because he said he was wrongfully terminated based on racial discrimination.
Yep.
I don't know what evidence he has towards that at all, if any.
He's probably going to be pulling out data. I know I've seen a whole lot of that stuff of other races that have had similar records or worse that maintain their job.
Yeah, probably so.
Longer.
Probably so. And then you know what they're gonna do? This is what they're gonna do. They're gonna point to Marvin Lewis and the Bengals and be like, "Look, man, this dude ain't win no playoff games for like 12 years, and he got to stick around."
Yeah, So, and you're right, and maybe he's hedging a bet that, hey, I can at least capitalize off of this and maybe bring it to light for others, for people to know, hey, this is really happening. And if the text messages are real, the alleged, I'm gonna say alleged because I don't know,
Yeah, I mean that's the real smoking gun, right? Because I mean, like, first of all, how the hell does Bill Belichick know? How is it that
right?
So that means if Bill Belichick knew, that means Brian Dable knew that he was getting the job.
Yes, absolutely. Just sit tight. We'll get back to you. Don't go interview no more. I don't know what that conversation is, but it's got to be something of that nature that, hey, we got you. We got some more processes we got to go through.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. That's probably exactly what they said. Yeah, we just got to finish the process, and it's going to take a couple of weeks, but here's what it is. We'll send the jet to come get you so you can do your press conference in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because I can't fly him in immediately afterward. Hey, go ahead now. Who can we call to fly me in tomorrow so we can get this done real quick? Man, it's nasty. It's ugly. I hate it. I really do. I feel sorry for, again, if this happened like this. And now you got me curious because I didn't know much about the Broncos stuff. But
I don't know what the deal is with the Broncos. To be honest with you, I have no idea.
But it'll be interesting to watch, to read. I'm sure the Athletic will have something on it tomorrow.
Yeah,
tomorrow. And I would hope that it will be big news. I would hope that it doesn't die too fast. But you're probably right. There'll be some settlement. It'll be covered for a minute, and then it'll just go away, and we'll be right back in the draft. And who actually became the coach at Minnesota and Panthers and all the other places, and they'll leave him alone and give him his money, and he, I don't know, like you said, maybe he ends up at Michigan or somewhere else.
Well, yeah, maybe so. I mean, and just to take a slight left on coaching replacements, just keep an eye on who gets hired, in the sense of, remember what I said, how teams like to, at least from my observation, they like to just go in a completely different direction. So this is how you go from Adam Gase to Brian Flores, offense to defense. If the Minnesota Vikings actually do hire Jim Harbaugh, that'd be another little data point. The Broncos have already done it. The Bears are doing it now. So, just watch that trend and see if you end up seeing the same thing. Because I think whoever Miami ends up hiring will be some offensive dude.
Okay, well, so JT, let's do this. I'll put this out into the atmosphere. Because we're probably going to be freezed in and off the roads for the next couple of days. Anyway, I'm saying next couple of days. Thursday and Friday is supposed to be terrible out here in the Metroplex of Dallas with the freezing rain. So there should be some more news about this and around the NFL. Why don't you and I at least do some recorded content, maybe perhaps over the next few days if we're stuck at home and if you have some time in between your zeros and ones or whatever.
In between
you're
the toddler that's probably going to be stuck at home with us. Mad.
Yep. So yeah, you got to try to figure out how you can get over here on Saturday. I guess if hopefully the roads are clear up by Saturday, so we can see my little boo. But yeah, maybe we can hit on this and just do a little short something and record it and put it out and give our hot take on what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate anybody who made it this far. If you made it this far, I don't know if anybody's watching anymore. But if you did, thanks.
Yes, sir. We do appreciate it very much. We'll see y'all next Tuesday, same time. JT will split this up, cut it up for you. Give those subscribes, hit that subscribe button, give us the likes. Come see us next week. We got more college football to talk. Peace out.